Let us execute an immediate, sweeping analytical vector shift away from the algorithmically targeted tracking matrices of modern digital dating apps and domestic psychological suspense thrillers, and plunge straight into the fiercely elite, calculation-heavy tracking grids of federal judicial sovereignty, weaponized institutional corruption, and the deeply protective world of a legendary legal powerhouse asset running raw tactical alignment loops. We are crossing the threshold directly into the hyper-monitored, blood-stained velvet chambers of the Washington, D.C. Circuit Court, the exclusive procedural grid of an engineered structural execution, and the lethal analytical parameters of an intense, multi-generational legal tracking matrix with Judge Stone, the exceptional, pulse-pounding masterpiece anchoring a massive new blockbuster legal universe by the absolute, undisputed sovereign of high-velocity procedural suspense, James Patterson, and the legendary EGOT-winning titan of visceral traumatic characterization, Viola Davis. This high-stakes narrative tracking sequence delivers an exceptional look at an operational crossroad where a fierce, underestimated female protagonist asset running a blind survival loop, a powerful, dangerously territorial ancient crime family network, and an absolute defense of a magistrate's final personal sovereignty metrics collide at terminal velocity. Let us map the strategic narrative grid. If you are an elite enthusiast of high-octane, slow-burn legal thrillers where an endangered, hyper-observant female judicial protagonist must navigate an absolute maze of corrupt institutional political houses, deceptive deep-state blood aristocracies, and a deadly ring of active administrative gaslighting while running a blind survival loop inside a completely compromised global ecosystem, where an analytical mind uses deep behavioral profiling, calculated tactical boundaries, and absolute mental stamina to outmaneuver an invisible predatory elder network, and where the authors utilize an incandescent, fearless black female judge uncovers a Supreme Court nominee's darkest secret and must run for her life from a shadow consortium diagnostic routine to test our hero's structural limits, this book is engineered to lock you in. Patterson and Davis completely dominate the high-precision judicial instincts meet lethal political hostility dynamic, capturing the heart-racing intellectual momentum, suffocating institutional paranoia, and heavy deductive depth popularized by genre vargs like John Grisham, Scott Turow, David Baldacci, and Greg Iles, while treating realistic courtroom logistics, complex dynastic alignment arcs, and protective high-density combat extraction grids with absolute technical mastery. The narrative tracking grid zeroes in on the highly volatile, calculation-heavy baseline of our central legendary powerhouse asset, Judge Evelyn Stone, operating under a severe calculation-heavy handicap of massive systemic bias, deep-seated historical family vulnerabilities, and a hyper-visible targeting profile by the capital's ruling political and criminal capos. Behind Evelyn's rigorous database footprints and tense bench log records lies an intricate matrix of hidden faction allegiances, deeply buried administrative secrets, and sharp, high-stakes tactical maneuvers. Evelyn's collective defense mechanisms are locked down tight behind a lifetime of fighting her way to the federal bench and surviving complex shielding her vulnerable operational autonomy nodes from being entirely wiped out by a ruthless elite cleanup offensive. The spark ignites when an unexpected high-frequency structural anomaly breaches her active scanning perimeter. A high-profile federal corruption case landed on her docket instantly cross-references with a high-level calculated malice tied directly to a massive human trafficking and extortion ledger operating out of the highest echelons of government. As the hostile syndicate's mobilization phases enter an increasingly lethal terminal tier across the capital, a series of suspicious administrative sabotage attempts, targeted evidence frame-ups, and calculation-heavy media ambushes threaten to permanently eliminate Evelyn from the active living civilian registry. The official diagnostic metrics of the global tracking centers flash white-hot when her defensive maneuvers and raw intellectual output reveal that her fresh investigative alignment is radically, impossibly altering the intelligence community's historical balance of power. The standard boundaries of routine federal law enforcement and peaceful corporate compliance protocols crumble, and our central protagonists run completely out of standard bureaucratic escape factors. They are thrust directly into an active and visible war across Washington and foreign diplomatic channels, where deceptive political houses, highly manipulative agency directors, and a calculation-heavy black ops apparatus launch aggressive countermeasures to permanently suppress their survival data stream. The tactical parameters instantly explode as their historical and survival warfare turns completely active, transforming the pristine boardrooms of K Street lobbying firms, dark Potomac River perimeters, and private fortified safehouse chambers into a volatile psychological pressure cooker and a physical battle zone.
Our protective, unyielding protagonist is forced to deploy her massive intuitive tradecraft, environmental mapping skills, and raw intellectual stamina to maintain her boundary lines before the next competitive cleanup phase permanently deletes her progress. Evelyn is purposeful and resolute, determined to deploy her massive intuitive tracking skills, overwhelming moral authority, and persistent analytical dominance to break their perimeter and preserve her focus, only to realize her hidden internal grit matches the lethal reality of the capital step for step. Every midnight data stream excavation, every silent choice to stand off against an arrogant syndicate fixer behind standard security barriers, and every intense moment of channeling raw, unyielding survival mechanics chips away at her reliance on original peaceful rules. What follows is an exceptional, high-stakes war of perspective, tactical position, and raw human grit. We watch the political elite's deceptive perimeters completely unwrapped as the authors reveal that the true victory requires more than just surviving an initial ambush or managing a difficult court proceeding. It demands an absolute, uncompromising defense of constitutional law, personal truth, and systemic survival against a cold, calculating machine of international hatred and geopolitical supremacy. While our central characters smooth over each other's psychological and defensive blind spots with devastating analytical force, creating a fiercely protective, absolute web of dark, possessive loyalty around their brotherhood, a brutal series of close-quarters tactical confrontations and high-stakes evidentiary breakthroughs shifts the clock into its terminal phase, proving that historical emotional hazards have tracked them to their final outpost. To survive the impending locked grid trap and permanently secure a sanctuary, our resilient hero must unleash an absolute, unyielding defense of her final boundary lines. It is a legal espionage thriller, federal courtroom suspense, political dynasty drama, high-velocity contemporary noir masterpiece that treats deep relational logistics and intense structural friction with elite precision. The tension here burns with a sharp, calculation-heavy intensity. We are talking about that high-frequency, one whispered verdict triggers a fatal chamber showdown energy, or a sudden pause during an active franchise tactical briefing, an unexpected shift in an adversary's protective physical posture during a high-stakes kinetic confrontation, or a heavy, possessive realization that an elite intelligence operative has completely mapped your personal coordinates carries massive structural weight. Patterson and Davis write with an exceptionally fresh, vivid, and beautifully blunt voice, perfectly capturing the heavy, oppressive atmosphere of a private executive vault before a major corporate takeover, and the distinct, subtle scent of polished mahogany, expensive law book leather, fine tailoring wool, automated espresso machines, rain-slicked marble pavement, spilled copper, and pure, unadulterated suspense. What truly elevates this benchmark entry into elite territory is the author's unmatched ability to balance complex, high-stakes community dynamics and genuine protective power tradecraft alongside a breathtaking narrative pace and deep emotional hooks. Our protagonists don't rely on unbelievable superficial Hollywood superhero action tropes. Their immense situational intelligence, strategic patience, and profound survival instincts match the complexity of the chaotic modern corporate and high society underworld they dominate step for step, making their choices to risk everything feel profoundly authentic and deeply gripping. The pacing moves with calculated momentum, tracking intense conversational standoffs and breathtaking tactical breakthroughs before ratcheting up to an absolute jaw-dropping conclusion that delivers total, hard-earned advancement to their horizon. Judge Stone is the definitive pro-level upgrade your high-stakes political fiction and intense asset suspense library demands right now. It is elegant, immensely fast-paced, and utterly unputdownable. It proves that when your entire sanctuary is targeted by a cold, calculating institutional monster, the most revolutionary play you can execute is to lock your perimeters, trust your elite survival training, and fight like hell alongside your network to rewrite the data. So, secure your personal reading sanctuary, review your emotional defensive perimeters, open your Kindle, and prepare to track the fleet.